Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Antonio Ducceschi, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of Starhotels, and who is, more importantly, a great friend and visionary in our industry, very successful person. We're going to talk about what's going on in the hotel industry, what's going on in the meetings and event industry, and how our business owners in our industry should prepare themselves for the foreseeable future. Enjoy the conversation with Antonio Ducceschi. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. Today, I'm so delighted to speak with a friend, an amazing person in our industry, the fabulous career. He's currently the Chief Commercial Officer of Starhotels. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Antonio Ducceschi. Come stai?
Ciao, tutto bene. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. I think I don't deserve that, but thank you anyway.
Well, everybody who know you would say that you deserve even more. So I'll leave it to that. Antonio, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. I had a fabulous career. I'm going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about the hotel industry, what business owners in our industry need to know. But first thing first, how did you get into this industry and why?
You know, Eric, it was by accident. None of my family has ever been in the hotel business. And when I first told my father I wanted to go to hotel business school, he said, hotel, why? And I says, look, I think it looks, nice maths. You study languages, you travel. And he said, I don't agree, but let me come and see the school. So he came and see the school. He liked it. He saw the school was a serious business school. And he says, okay, you give it a try. What I didn't realize that, the summertime was dedicated to training. And as all my friends were going on holiday, during the summer, after school, we had to mandatory go and work in hotels as trainee. At the very beginning, I was a little skeptical. I said, oh my God, this is not really what I thought it was. But then, you know what, as a 15 years old guy, having the possibility to live out of the family and going back home every night at the time you wanted, having lived in a family which was a bit strict, I says, this is not too bad. So but I was lucky enough to have friends and colleagues at the beginning of my career that made me passionate about the job. Because it is, it's a tough job, it's a tough environment. Hospitality is not an easy field. But if you find colleagues and partners at the very beginning, enable you to transfer the passion, the motivation, and it becomes your career for life. And then since then, I never left this environment. And it was lots of different steps, but the beginning was really by accident. Nothing planned at all in my family, at least.
And you're so right in the industry. And when you get into this, you really need to like to serve people. I remember having some kind of internship. I work in the summer for the Club Med. I was one of the GO in Marbella at that time. There was no one day off. There was like nonstop. You have to smile, and it was the greatest learning experience. And I'm sure that's what you experienced with being a trainee, and that helped you in your career, right?
Absolutely. I had a fabulous time, and I had the opportunity to meet so many people from different environment, different background, different culture. And that's what really I liked. It was not just the client, but it was also the colleagues, coming from all different background and families. And it was a bit of a melting pot where I says, this is really where I can enrich not just my knowledge, but also my personal development. And then from a really personal standpoint, I was getting so much, energy, information, different point of views, and sometimes debate. We didn't agree all the time. Italians are we are, right? We're never in agreement, but at the end we get a job done. But at the beginning, there's a lot of debates. But I did like it. I did like that, rich environment in culture and in personal taken.
That's awesome. How many languages do you speak? And in how many countries did you work?
I work in, I think, 7 different countries. I count them all. But I do speak 3 languages fluently and then 2 halves. My partner is half German, so she speaks German to the kids. And I can basically understand almost everything in German. I can speak a little bit to make myself comfortable, go to a restaurant. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get starved. But and Spanish, it's also my daughter goes to school in Spain, in Madrid, and we talk in Spanish from time to time. But it's for Italians, it's easy to learn Spanish. It's not too difficult. So if I listen to somebody speaking in Spanish, I almost understand 80%, and I can try to articulate an answer. So it's 3 and 2 halves, I would say.
And English and French fluently, which is absolutely amazing.
English and French, yeah, I can manage. I've been living in France, I've been living in Monaco, so it's something that comes quite natural. Sometimes, what is difficult? If I have to do a presentation in Italian, I struggle because I don't find the words, and it's not a business language, and Italian we can talk for a long time, but we're not precise as the English language. So when we talk about business, I'd rather do it in English. And I was very comfortable. My former boss in Monaco, we were speaking in English all the time. We were only two in the group because everybody was speaking French. But when we spoke in English, it was taking us half of the time to get an agreement on something. So English, Italian, and French are not really the practical language for business. But it comes wherever I can think in the language of the country where I am.
That's amazing, absolutely amazing. And that's also a sign that you adapt completely to that country. Now you're working with Star Hotel, and we all know that the industry has some challenges. And you had a record year, if I'm not mistaken. So what is happening with your group, and what is happening in the industry?
That's an interesting one. When we look back and we think about post-pandemic, none of us thought we were where we are today. We thought it would have taken 4 to 5 years to recover to 2019 level of business. So we were doing start a business plan saying, okay, by 2025, maybe we will be back to 2019 level of business. And that was the vision that pretty much everybody had. And then, I think something happened like April 2022, where immediately, COVID was forgotten. People had an amazing willingness to travel, to go back to face-to-face meetings, to go back to business. And the business was booming ever since, I think the turning point was kind of mid-April 2022. And all of a sudden we could see every month a record month. And we did between 2022 and December 2023, every single month was a record month. It was unbelievable. It's sometimes unmanageable because aside from that, as we had the challenges of resources because, after COVID, lots of people left the industry. So we had two opposite sides, business booming, lack of resources. So, and you were driving a higher rate because of the amount of pressure, but you were not providing the highest quality of service, which are comparable to what people expect when they pay such a high price. So there was a big challenge that we had for a period of time, trying to manage expectation of the clients, having a service level which was in some cases not really up to what we wanted, but still with a willingness to provide the best service to the customers and drive business, because we had to go back to a level of profitability which was acceptable for the company. So I think it was a very good journey in terms of looking at alternative possibilities. I remember during the COVID, when we met with the team, we said, look, let's forget we have hotels, because we have buildings in the middle of the city that can do everything except two things which we're born for: making people sleep and making people eat. That's the two things that hotels were born for, and they couldn't do it. So how can we make some profit out of the buildings in the middle of the city where we cannot sleep and cannot eat? So we're looking at alternative ways to, rent the parking to rental cars, get the rooms converted into little concert hall, having little rooms converted into little gym where athletes could train, but, people could not physically go to the gym, like people could not physically go to a concert hall. So there was not, it was not a money exercise, to be honest with you. We didn't make much money out of it. It was peanuts, but help us having a different view of the business, say we need to look alternative ways in which we can make money and not stop to just, selling beds or selling, meals. And I think it was a turning point where culturally our company has changed, our team has changed, and we were looking at every single opportunity to increase profitability, to make the most out of what we had, selling additional spaces. We said, this is a meeting room. We've been in a meeting room for 10 years. What if we put into a shop? What if a shop would be more profitable than a meeting room? Why do we need to stick to a meeting room if we can go back to a shop? So all these new ideas came into play. Every single hotel did an exercise of incremental revenue opportunity and alternative revenue opportunity. And that was brought us to the record year 2023. We were not there by accident. We were there because we thought we could do it. We thought about alternative ways of improving our business profitability. Certainly a lot, it's the pressure of the market, because without the market, the dynamic of the market, you cannot make things yourself. But because we increase our market share versus the competition, I think that exercise of looking at out of the box, which we say all the time, but we never do it, because as you know, how many times we heard think out of the box? 1,000 times, right? In every single business review, think out of the box. You say, but you never do it. We did it, and we've been successful.
That's awesome. And you had, since April 22, as you say, this revenge travel that people absolutely wanted. Is this still the case? Is this winding down? How do you see the next 12 months for that?
It's a good point. If I talk to my boss, she would say it's going to continue. The reality,
because he wants the numbers.
She wants the numbers. We have a very, very ambitious target 2024. I think there's twofold of the answer. I think particularly in Europe, the market is quite diverse. When I look at statistics, really from a very, financial point of view, there are countries which are forecasted to grow more than others, like Germany, because it comes from very far behind. I look at the STR reports for 2024. I see Frankfurt at plus 16%, for example, compared to previous year. Why? Because it comes from a pretty low base compared to other destinations that I covered earlier. Generally, I think there is a mid-Europe, London, Paris are forecasted to grow between 6 and 8. Some destinations are over 10%. Some other destinations are not forecasted to grow because they grow so much in 2023. So it's tough for them to grow again, particularly because take Rome, for example. Rome is a destination last year was booming, but next year there's a lot of new supply coming to play. So there's more demand, but it's compensated by a lot more supply. Generally, as a company, we've seen, I can say what we did the first 2 months is plus 15% on the previous year, which is a very good trend, which I couldn't think it was feasible up to now. We see a good vibe on lots of markets. And I think we did those results considering that two main markets are not yet back to travel, which is China. It's still very limited to what the potential is for two reasons. One, the flights are not yet for Europe back to the original numbers, and visas. It just don't give visas. So they wait for months. So the market is probably still at 50% of its potential. And Russia, obviously, it's still not there. All the, Eastern Europe is still affected by what's happening. So that is really kind of stopped. The American market has been very, very strong last year and is looking strong this year too. We've been talking to Preferred, to Leading, to, all the key players in the American, upscale business. And everyone thinks that the trend will continue. Although, as you know, lots of the people were traveling based on the gains of the stock market. The stock market has been, a little up and down lately. So that could affect a little bit. In terms of meetings, we've seen a great pickup of in-person meetings. And I think there is a big trend. You don't have the big congresses. I think those are really a bit off, not the big numbers. And the very small ones, you can really run in online. Some of the small ones, 5, 6 people, 10 people board meeting. Maybe you meet in person half of the time you can do it online. Mid-size meetings, I think, are back because I see the vibe. I see people are really willing to meet. So what we see in our group desk is an increasing demand of groups and in-person meetings. So the trend for 2024 it's looking good. Lots of destinations are, experiencing new supply. It seems like everybody wants to go into hospitality now. Every investors, because of the, what happened is in the past you were competing with office spaces, and you have a building to transform into something. You say, do I transform into a hotel or into an office space? And up to a few years ago, office space were more rentable because the investment to convert to office is limited, and what you can ask in rent is higher. Now with the introduction of smart working, lots of offices are empty. Introduction of co-working space. lots of office building, they don't know what to do with all the space. So they try to convert into hotels, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, it provides lots of new supply in some of the destinations. So I think generally I can see a good trend of business continue in 2024. It could be affected by all the supply coming to the market, which in some destinations is really a lot. In Rome, there's a huge number of hotels never seen before. Probably in 2 years, we have the same amount of hotel we had in the last 10. Yeah.
Do you see also more meetings from corporation organization that are now working remote or hybrid to bring people together? Do you see an increase in that?
Yeah, it's a very valid point. There is a willingness of, because they don't meet in the office, that lots of people are working remotely, they have a need to make some physical meetings happening from time to time with all the teams together. Because it's true, most of the meeting before you could meet very often in the office. And now lots of the people are allowed to work from remote, so they don't see each other in person for a long time. Mm-hmm. So those corporations have a need to create physical meetings for their teams. Otherwise, there are really no connections. And when there's no connections, I think in our company, during COVID, we employed about 15 people, which I never met for 2 years. And they were working for me, but I never met them. So I didn't know even what they were looking like, apart from the face. I think that time is now gone, and we need physical interactions and empathy, and create that kind of relationship that then can be also cultivate online. But at some point, you need physical touch points. So yeah, we can say that. But we can also see a trend in corporation being more attentive to where they hold the meetings and the purpose of the meeting. We were discussing earlier on with our team of event managers how many questions we get today on sustainability. There's a huge, huge attention to some companies on sustainability. We have a hotel, which is recently a 4-star property, and we have an AstraZeneca meeting that was supposed to take place in our hotel. You know why they decided to go somewhere else? Because the name of the hotel is Villa Michelangelo, like a villas. But technically, it's just a 4-star property. And it says, there's the name Villa kind of make to understand that it's a fascinating place, a little more too sophisticated. So as a company policy, we cannot hold the meeting there. We need to hold it somewhere else. So there is, we got the opposite now. There's lots of attention to that. But also in terms of sustainability, they ask questions on how you measure it. Because before, a few years ago, they were asking, what are you doing about it? And you get list a few activities you were doing. Now they say, what are you doing? And then second question is, how do you measure it? Because if you can't measure it, there's very little credibility you have, on just making a list of things that it's a wish list. So that's a big trend affecting lots of our properties because they're not prepared to those kind of answers.
On that note, is it still the case that it's a topic, sustainability is a topic which is more important for companies in Europe than it is in the US, or is it something that is evolving?
I think it's a bit across the board. Some companies, I think there's a bit of a difference. Corporate in America, what I see is that there's more attention to CSR, which is not just sustainability, is also what you give back to the community. In fact, we get more requests from American companies, not just to what you do, but what they can do to give back to the community. Incorporate a bit of a program of social work during the meeting, things that very rarely you get from European companies. They want to make sure that you are, compliant with sustainability, but not necessarily they ask you what you do about CSR, what they can do about CSR. American companies are a little more attentive to corporate social responsibility and giving back to their community when they can. That's a little difference between Europe and US, what we see now.
Now, going back to your boss, I'm sure she is extremely happy when she sees the number, and you chief commercial officer. And after that, you have to have the delivery. Now, we know that a lot of people left our industry. There's not enough people that are being trained. And there's a lot of, as you say, not only in Rome, but there's a lot of properties that are being opened in the world. So how are you, not you specifically, but how is the industry, you think, managing this lack of resources and training people to continue to deliver, especially then with a high-end brand like yours, tremendous experiences for the guests?
That's a very valid point. And we had a lot of roundtables with other industries, not just with hospitality, but other partners working in similar industries and service industry. I was talking to airlines. We had a table where we were together with some HR official to say, what are we doing about it? What are we doing to identify the best talents and retain the best talents, which is really a critical point today. And I think there's two main criteria. One is identifying the best talent today does not necessarily go through the amount of experience you have in the industry, but the amount of willingness you have to serve, to deliver, how hungry you are about making yourself a real manager, or becoming successful. Because some people are just satisfied with average. We find people today who says, I don't want pressure, I don't want to be stressed, I just want to deliver what I need, and then they have no ambition, they don't want to grow in their career. So you need to identify those who have ambition, willingness, motivation, and sometimes you really employ by attitude, not by experience. I'd rather get somebody junior but with the right attitude than somebody a little more senior with competencies, but you feel they're flat. They say, I know what I can do, but I'm not going to jump up to there. I'm going to give my best every single day, but that's it. Not do the extra mile, not do. And today you need people that give a little bit of extra, not just to work more, but to work more effectively, to find best ways to be reactive to the clients. I understand the client's needs and the willingness to understand the new dynamic of the market. The second aspect, it's career growth, because a lot of the young talents, they have no passion to wait. They want to grow immediately. They want to, become, directors, managers, chief or something immediately. And, how do you do that? It's to keep them engaged, because you can't, everybody cannot become a boss immediately, right? There's, only a hierarchy. And so you need to find horizontal growth, which means that you give them the chance to see other things. And in our industry, as you know, we've been very vertical for a long time. If you were a receptionist, you would do reception all your life until probably you become maybe assistant manager and so forth. But never you're going to go work in the kitchen, right? If you were born in the kitchen, you will work in the kitchen all your life. And the same things for other industry events. So now we need to find ways in which we can put these people aside and say, hey, do you want to try something else? Do you want to try something else? The advantage we have in hospitality is that we have within the same industry lots of different jobs.
Right.
You have accountant, you have HR, you have sales, you have operations, you have maintenance, you have lots of different jobs within the same industry. So we have the opportunity to provide them different experiences, a different career path, to make them keep engaged, because they get fed up with what they do very, very quickly, very quickly. So they can't wait 3 years to get a promotion. They need to get something new. Even if it's not a promotion, it's a different responsibility. And this is something you need to plan. If you don't plan it, people will leave. You have two ways. You take care of them, or they will go somewhere else. They have no loyalty, and reflects on many other things. We were talking about loyalty program for them the other day with a group of people. How do we redefine loyalty program for the customers with the new customers, which are not really loyal? So you need to find different ways to keep them engaged without thinking that they will be customer for life. So I think we need to be used to turnover, plan good succession planning, particularly on management positions. Otherwise, you can get naked very quickly, and the competition steals you 2 or 3 big good managers, you're done. So have a good plan for number 2. But again, I think these are the two topics: is recruit by attitude and provide horizontal career path, so to keep them engaged along the time.
Amazing. Thank you for that. The other point is I wanted to ask you is with all the change and everything you mentioned now for the industry, what do business owners in our industry need to be aware of? How is it going to impact them in the future? Obviously, one point is the cost. I think it was Mike Dominguez that was explaining that the classical hamburger, almost all the ingredients.
Yeah, I've seen this. Very, very easy to understand.
Absolutely. And they have obviously increased 20, 25%. And there's also the salaries that have been increasing 20, 25%, and probably rightly so in many cases. But those costs are not going to go down. So What are business owners, people that are planning meetings, what they should be aware of?
I think they should be aware that technology is not an enemy. An enemy in the sense that technology will reduce the number of staff, no, technology is there to help. Technology is there to make you work more effectively. Work more effectively means that you can concentrate on added value stuff rather than admin stuff. So today there is a very little, although everybody talks about technology, but if you see the implementation of technology on the field is still very limited to what it could be. And provide you can accomplish basic tasks in a very, very short time and focus on high quality, high value touch point with the client. That's another thing. It doesn't mean that you reduce your staff, but you use your staff more effective to generate maybe additional revenue. If you have your team that can talk to the client and say, I'm going to sell you something extra, an extra gala dinner, or, just upgrade your, basic contract because I had my admin stuff done with artificial intelligence, with ChatGPT, or with whatever you want to do it, or, Microsoft Copilot that does your presentation in no time. So all these little tools that are available today have no much of a cost, because the other thing is that we think technology is only for big companies because they can afford to invest in technology. No, today, even small business owners, they can invest a little bit in technology and become a little more effective in the way they do things. And I think that's the future, is to become more effective and use people for added value tasks, not for basic admin stuff. And in our industry, it's still very rare. The other day, I was going to a hotel, one of our properties, and I still see somebody going around with a big folder with all the BOs. I said, you know what? Throw it in the bin. I'll buy you personally an iPad, and you're going to get all your plans, all you got in there. Because he said, oh, we might have it, but I don't know how it works. Because it's an old lady, an old man. I said, look, I'll teach you. But today, you need to be effective. In no time, you need to respond to the client, show the things you need to show, but we need to start working differently. And I think there's a lot of tasks that we still do manually in our industry and that we could do more efficiently. But we see still the technology as a little enemy because it's still far there, it's still complicated, and it changes our habits and maybe affecting some stuff because they feel their job is on the line. We had a study with the university in Rome, and they asked me the question, says, how can we articulate and interview the people that feel today threatened by new technology? They feel that their job is on the line. I said, happy to, find some people that can be interviewed and see what the challenge is, what they have in the stomach. What's their fear? Do you fear technology will take over your job? And if you keep having fear, they will. If you react and try to learn how to use technology, maybe they won't take your job away. But if you just keep having fear, your job will disappear. That's for sure.
Absolutely. A great point. Thank you. Antonio, I'd like to conclude by speaking about volunteering, because you and I have our career and are still having our career impacted by volunteering in general and specifically in our industry. What would you say to anyone that say, yeah, I don't have time, yeah, I'm busy with this, yeah, I'm overwhelmed? Why volunteer in our industry?
I think giving back is something that it's our duty, particularly people like us that have reached senior positions along our career. We owe to give back because somebody at the time we were young has given back to us. Yep. We are here because somebody has given back. When I joined MPI at the very beginning, it was 1994, I was a young in the industry, and I was able to understand more about this business, about this career, and then grow my career because I had several mentors. And those people that voluntarily, without asking anything back, they give back to the industry, they give back to me, and they gave me, their knowledge, their skills, that they gave me the information and the suggestion that I needed. So I'm here because I was giving back. I'm here because some people decided to give back. So I need to give back too. And I think getting involved, it's a great way of feeling that you're doing something for your industry, but also keep yourself updated. MPI has been my professional home all the time. The house where I was going back every time I had a challenge. In our career, we have, waves, up and downs. Everybody has. And whenever I had a down moment, I always went back to MPI. I always found somebody that could tell me exactly where I was and how to get out of that foggy zone. So I think giving back, it's a great way to invest in a future in our industry, because everyone contributes to elevate our profession, to elevate the way we do things, to teach people how to stay engaged and why to get passionate. And particularly because our industry, as you said at the very beginning, is about passion. Mm-hmm. It's about people being engaged. It's not just a job that you do because you could do any job. So to get people engaged, I was in Luxembourg talking to a number of students that I had the pleasure to teach online. And when they saw me in person, they all came into me and they talked to me for half an hour. They privatized my time during coffee break. I was happy. But they was like looking at me like I was saying things, for them really valuable. And I felt very good. It was a very good feeling to keep them engaged and to make them passionate about what we do. So I think I always found great pleasure in giving back to the industry in any position I was. And I've been in several organizations. MPI is probably the one I spent most of my time, but I was in other organizations called HMI. But in every organization, I felt that I was going to do the right thing and for the right purpose. And it was a great way of finding a great networking. Because in that environment, you remove the barrier of somebody wants to sell and buy. You remove the hierarchy. I never felt in MPI like somebody was the big boss and I was the small guy, or the reverse. We are colleagues there for a purpose, to learn from each other. And that is removed. So you can create great connections in those organizations.
Absolutely. Giving back, getting information, education, networking, and also having fun.
I didn't want to touch on that point. I'm a very shy guy. So
tell everyone what I did to you, how I was a bastard to you.
I can tell everyone how you made me lose 2 years of life. Now, I want to tell everyone what Eric did to me in 2005, right?
Yeah.
In Monaco, the European Conference of MPI in Monaco, at the time where Prince Rainier died. Prince Rainier actually died 2 days before the conference, which was a very sad moment for the Principality. It's also a very tough moment for us organizing the conference, because we had to cancel the major ludic event and social events and keep it very low profile, as it should be, during a very sad moment for the Principality. So on the last day of the gala dinner, everybody was around a table at the end of the gala dinner. And, I was working for one of the major properties, the Meridian at the time, which was hosting probably more than half of the participants of the conference. And it was one of the only hotels open, after hours, not for dancing, but for, staying together, drinking, because you could do it in closed doors. So I was working for the property at the time, and I was involved in the host committee. So I was one of the last at the gala dinner, waiting for everybody to go and to be happy and satisfied. And, as a group of people, the old friends, me, Eric, and a few others around the table. And at one point, Eric picked up the phone and says, I didn't know what was happening because I saw the phone was ringing. So he picked up the phone and says, Antonio, no, what's happening? I said, I was doing that, this is something wrong. Eric, what is happening? The bar of the Meridian is closing or is closed. And, at that time, I had 300 people walking from the gala dinner to my hotel, where supposedly the bar was closed. And nothing else was open in the Principality except our bar. So I was like devastated by having 2 days of conference with, 500 people that we're trying to make happy, and you screw up the last night because the bar is closed. So I was trying to call everyone, and I got hold of the duty manager of the Meridian and says, what are you doing there? Are you crazy? You're ruining my conference, and, the bar is closed. And the guy said, sir, the bar is fully open. And I turned to Eric, and I was wanting to kill him. And I didn't because he's a friend, but otherwise I would have killed him. And yeah, I think this is one of the worst jobs in my life. I think I had the 2 minutes of, I was really devastated, but he was so good in doing it, and I don't know how he did it, but it was really convincing. But
And you were a good sport. You were a very good sport.
My goodness. But that's a funny story. But that's about having fun in our business. I think that's a good part. We work hard, play hard. I think it's a mantra of our industry. And I think I was saying to everybody today during my meeting with the events managers, as you're doing the best job in the world, but it's also one of the most stressful. So if you take it from the positive side, you can be very happy. If you take it on the wrong side, you're going to be very sad. So if you want to be happy, just see the positive one, see the positive stress, see the results you have with the clients, and be happy when something goes right and you have really compliments to the clients. That's the best accomplishment you can have. But it's a stressful job, so we need to have fun with doing it, and we need to have the pleasure, the enjoyment, and willingness of serving people. If you have that in your DNA, that's the best job in the world. If you don't, quit fast.
I agree. Amen to that. Antonio, thank you so much. I know you have a very busy schedule. I truly appreciate working with you, talking with you, and working with you in the past. And I look forward to seeing you live in a few weeks then.
Thank you, Eric. I always make time for you, as you know.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.
Antonio, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to speak with you, to see you. And congratulations again for everything you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please do so on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.